Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of JourneyCast. My name is Levi.
I'm Alicia.
And today we have with us Andreas.
Andreas.
How do you pronounce your last name?
Striefler.
Striefler. Okay, I was going to say it right.
You were right.
I just wasn't confident enough in how I was pronouncing it. Andreas, welcome.
Welcome.
Good to be here.
Yeah. Should we use your grade 9 photo from the pastor appreciation for the thumbnail?
Why not? Jeff
might as
always
well.
does.
Jeff always does
Every
that.
time I'm at a snack Christian school thing, my face shows up.
Who's that super young pastor?
Yeah. Who's that kid?
Yeah.
Was that taking on a disposable or?
Yeah.
All right. I think this is a fun fact. Andreas grew up going to Hillcrest.
Mm-hmm.
He was
I
in
did.
the youth group here.
Back in the day.
We started coming here, I think, when I was probably 10. So I did King's Kids. We did youth.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's like, initially we were meeting in houses for youth for Bible study.
Oh, really?
And then we transitioned to the church Tuesday nights, which still is the spiel.
Yeah.
And then actually, I think grade 10, we started a youth service in the gym.
Oh, C4?
C4 service.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we were up to about 200 youth coming here by the time I left. Not that I had anything to do with it. I was in youth. Yeah. And so I loved youth
We
here.
would have been in youth sort of at the same time.
We overlapped.
Yeah.
I'm not that much older.
No, but I'm trying
I
to
get it.
remember because I would have been there. I think the youth service started in 97 because I think that's what Steve says anyway. We always say youth group established in 97 because I think that's when we started formally
it's on the
doing
wall
things.
right there.
Yeah. Hopefully that's true.
Yeah.
We are hopeful about that.
Just repaint it.
And that was when I was in grade 7.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Do the math.
Yeah. I was in grade 8. Give or take a
A
bit.
few years.
Yeah. Yeah.
what was youth group like for kids listening who are in the youth group now?
Probably very similar in many senses. Tuesdays we'd come, we'd chill, we'd hang out in the gym, and then we'd break off into our life groups. Where
They were just, the whole night was life groups.
the whole night was life groups in typically grades, guys, girls,
Yeah,
separated.
Still do that.
Yeah, and
Except now there's like a senior highs girls group because it's just one big.
It just
group.
happened. Yeah.
Just happened like that.
yeah, and that I think
And
that
now we can't
happened
take them
too.
apart. That'd be mean.
That happened too, depending on like how many there was. Like there might not have been a lot of grade 11s, so the grade 11s and 12s combined.
Just like merge them.
Yeah, so we were literally all over the building, and we'd go for like an hour of life group, and it was whatever your leader picked as your topic was what you learned about.
Oh, wow.
That's a lot of
Yeah.
pressure for the leaders back in the day, hey?
A lot of trust too.
Andreas's mom at one point, so she's one of my favorite human beings. Shout out to Hella, who will probably never listen to this, but maybe. Who's to say?
She's one of my
Well,
favorites
here
too.
she keeps
Yeah.
tabs on Andreas. So.
It's good. But she was my small group leader when I was in grade 7. I mean, that's a bad place to be. She tried so hard. We still laugh about it, but there was this one time where she was trying to teach us about Moses, but all we wanted to talk about was boys. And so poor Hella, she just kept trying and we just weren't having it. And I think we just I don't know,
like, well,
grade
let's talk
7
about this
girls
boy,
were talking
Moses.
about basically anything other than what we were supposed to be talking about. And she tried real hard. But
And you guys turned out okay.
oh yeah, and she, you know what's funny
Eventually.
too? I think sometimes as leaders we think we had no impact on anyone's life, or they're like, oh, that was miserable, and all they did was talk about things they weren't supposed to. But I love Hella, hugely significant in my life. So anyway, that's a sidetrack. But
Yeah. So that was basically Tuesdays. Sunday we'd get together. 11 o'clock was a service, and we had like a youth worship team. So it was a bunch of youth leading the worship. And then Steve was the youth pastor back then. And so he would speak and we'd have prayer time. And over time, that service just continued to grow because we'd bring our friends.
I have a memory of this service. I want to clarify if this is true or not.
oh,
Did they use frying pans for offering plates?
I
don't
remember
I feel
recall
like I
that.
remember hearing maybe it was suggested, and I feel like there was some outrage about that.
Maybe it was suggested. I remember just the old offering plates that weren't as nice. I think they were like the wooden ones that we didn't have in the sanctuary anymore.
Yeah, I think they're still in that gym
They might be,
storage
yeah.
room there. Yeah.
I don't, yeah. It could have been like a Jake and Dave thing.
Yeah.
Who were here after. I wouldn't be surprised if they're like, let's use frying pans
A
because
little more
that's fun.
controversial.
Yeah.
I could be totally just making that up in my head.
That's
I don't
fine.
know.
Were you still in youth when Jake took the chainsaw to the wall?
No.
That was
but
a Sunday
would have been
morning.
interesting.
That was when they were building the stage there. And so they had kind of just a makeshift cover, but to show that we were now about to use it, he knew the wall was coming down. So he just took a chainsaw.
Wow.
Like to the drywall or what?
Yeah, it was just like, I don't know, whatever wooden cover was over it at the time. He just like went right through it. We all thought he had lost his mind. But that was his way of, he also same day used his chainsaw to carve Spam to promote the Redneck Olympics.
I do remember those events.
He's got a thing with chainsaws. Yeah.
Yeah.
He wouldn't let us use them.
Did
though.
anyone like talk to him about that?
I don't
like, hey,
know.
No.
Probably gave him a raise. I don't know.
good work.
We kind of wanted to get a whole new stage. Thanks for making it possible.
Was it Steve who was drilling, pretending to drill into the pulpit one
Yeah,
time?
uh-huh.
Yeah. And then like the guy who built it was sitting in the front row and he was like, careful, son.
I think my grandparents were big fans of Steve until that day.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, Steve did a lot of like, we did a whole like science and faith.
You
Like,
remember that?
And like every week it was something to do with maple bugs.
Oh,
Because the maple bugs
don't
around here
remember
were
that.
bad.
Still
we
bad.
we
Gross.
blew up maple bugs one service.
How do you, like with a firecracker or
I
what?
don't know. Yeah, they put them in some little can and just to see what would happen. Like
Oh my goodness.
Steve had like this crazy scientist outfit.
I remember
still
that.
remember that.
I remember him climbing some gigantic ladder.
Yep.
And I think did he electrocute Jello? I don't know.
I don't know what he, yeah.
I don't know.
So we did a lot of fun stuff in the youth service. It went well for its time, and then it just kind of
Do you still have any of that?
Finished.
I specifically remember merch that I think Casey made.
Oh, yeah.
The little Lego man
the C4 Legos
with
those are cool.
C4 on him.
Yeah, I don't have that merch anymore.
It's like all yellow or something. And
Yeah.
yeah.
We had one with like Japanese language that went like, or letters that went down the arms and like, there's a bunch of those.
Wow.
And then there was the summer, was it Crux? Is that what they called it? There was like
Yes.
summer merch too, specific to like summer hangouts.
Yeah, we used to have like, it was Lacuna.
A Lacuna.
So that was another, in the summers, we would always like hire on a youth intern at the church and like
You were one
we'd
of those
hang
interns?
out.
No.
Not
Weren't
those.
you?
This was like
No, I
before.
Oh,
was
you were
a-
here during the semester, right? Right.
Yeah.
Never mind.
So we had like, still there's one basketball net out there. I think we had a couple basketball nets, a beach volleyball court back there.
Yeah.
And we would just come and hang out in the parking lot. And that was our summer youth in that sense, just a Wednesday night.
Like a drop in.
Yeah, which was cool.
Nice.
Used to ride my bike to that.
Yeah.
Cool.
So we survived it though.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we're here today.
There was a dance troupe.
Dad? Whoa.
You weren't here for that.
No.
Soul Rhythm. I was in that. It was very controversial. Upset a
Yes.
lot of people.
Yeah, I remember hearing about that. Yeah. There was numbers of people who didn't stick around during that season.
It's true.
Yeah.
So when did you first come to know the Lord?
Good question. So I grew up in a pastor's family. My dad was a pastor. When I was 4, he passed away. So that's when we actually moved to Medicine Hat because my mom's side of the family was here. And we were always in church, went to the Christian school growing up. And so it was just always immersed in that. And so it was, when I was probably 7, 8, one night just was like, Mom, like help me pray this prayer. I want in on whatever this is, this Christianity thing. And
Yeah.
that's kind of when it started. And then it was just a continual progression of figuring out what does it mean to live that out? What does it mean to now be that? Recommitting. Often you'd go to camp, go to Whispering Pines, and like, yeah, okay, I want it even more.
Yeah.
Or, yeah, I've been going through a rocky season. Okay, God, help me again. And so, yeah, earlier on, pretty basic in that sense, but it was a continual and continues to be a living out of faith and continual commitment. It wasn't just oh good, I prayed a prayer, I'm good, I'm done,
Right.
move on. Yeah. So
You interned here, didn't you?
many summers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually have some really old document that I still reference quite a bit that you helped put together.
Uh-oh.
It was
What
you and a
document?
series of other people. It was like, is Christianity the only way to God?
Interesting.
Yeah.
I don't recall making that. That's cool.
Your name's on it. I'm trying to remember who else. Was there an Andruko?
Could be. Yeah.
I don't know. Anyway, there's a bunch of names
Yeah.
on there, but
No, I entered here probably 3, 4 summers.
what did that look like?
I one of the summers I interned a lot more probably at Whispering Pines, but then it was like a shared partnership. So I was at the camp for the seasons or the weeks that camp was on. And then I was more so here helping with VBS. We did backyard Bible clubs one year. One year I interned here at the church, and it was the first year we did 180 Sports Camp. I think it only ran for like 3 summers.
I had to run that once.
Yeah. And so I was the first one to run that, where it was 5 days, 5 different sports. So we did golf one day, soccer one day. And so, we hung out in Southridge at like one of the fields there, and we did soccer for 2-3 hours, and we had about 60, 70 kids, I think, coming out, a good number from the community, which was exciting. And so intern doing that. And then actually my year after high school, I didn't know what I was going to do with my life. And people were like, oh, you should be a pastor. And I was like, I am not going to rush into that. My mom very much pushed back against it, having been a pastor's wife. She's like, it's not something you just want to do because you're like, oh, that would be a cool job. So I actually interned here for a year with the youth ministry. And so I was about 5-10 hours a week volunteering, helping run one of the small groups of grade 7 guys, helping plan Friday night events, helping out wherever needed. And it was during that year that I kind of heard God saying, Andreas, I want you to pursue a vocational calling, living that out as a pastor. And so that's kind of when I took the next steps to go off to Bible school. And
I liked what you said before we started when, I mean, you're twisting Alicia's words a bit, but she said when you were called to be a pastor. But everyone is called.
The way I put it, and I've seen it somewhere, there's 3 callings. There's like an all caps lock call, so all capital letters, and that's we're called to Christ. And we're called to a relationship with Jesus. Then there's a capital C calling, and that's where we're called to serve him with our lives, how we live it out. And then there's a lowercase calling, and that's the vocation and how we then live that out. And so I've been called to serve as a pastor, but that doesn't mean that somebody who's called to be a plumber or somebody who's called to be a teacher, a stay-at-home mom has any less of a calling. Their calling is first and foremost to Jesus, than to live out their spiritual gifts and to serve within the community in God's kingdom. And then how you do that is different. And so I just kind of put more emphasis on those rather than, oh, I'm a pastor and I was called, because we often look at that as like this idealized
I think it can kind of skew your idea of like what does life look like after high school, especially for some of our students, is like, well, they do feel called, capital C, I guess, is how you define that, to serve God with their gifts. And you start to think the only way to do that is vocationally. Right. So like, if I'm going to serve God in any way, I guess I have to be a pastor.
Right. And I would look at it and go, I think we need good architects that are Christians. We need people who are building homes that are Christians. We need people who are cooks or baristas or you name it. We need people who are followers of Jesus, who are loving Jesus and living that out in a job. So it isn't about like, my job is better or more important. It's my faith in Jesus is priority. How I live out my faith and point people to the kingdom is important. And I happen to do that in the role of a church.
But everyone needs to do those other things too. How would you encourage someone to, like if they're deciding, I guess, for our any students listening, that, how to decide that? How do you decide, are you, lowercase called or uppercase called?
I mean, for me in my own life, I felt in my heart, in my gut, like this works. There's a lot of affirmation from others. So it's not a decision I made on my own. It wasn't like, I'm called and I need to go do this. And everyone's like, I don't know about that.
But are you?
I'll prove you wrong.
I'm just going to do it because, right?
Spite.
And
I think we've talked before about, just 1 year of Bible college being if you're really unsure of what to do, that can be a great option. But that doesn't necessarily mean ministry after that,
Right.
It's true.
It means ministry lived out life-wise, but not like a vocational
vocational
role.
Ministry.
And so I think it's like the affirmation of others. It's talking to your pastor, talking to people, just going, like, here's what I'm wrestling with. Have them pray with you. So like things are done in community, not hey, I do this on my own and I feel like I've got to do this.
Right.
There is an element of too, like the support of your parents, which can always be tough,
vary.
right? Like some may come from a home where parents just don't have a faith. And they're like, you got to be a dentist, right?
Yeah.
So there is a balance of honoring your parents in that, and yet trusting, like, no, this is what God's pointing me towards.
If your parents want to retire early on your money, they'll be pretty sad.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, then pastoral ministry is definitely the route you want to go.
Yeah.
No, not going to happen.
We're in this for the money.
Yes.
Clip that.
Just waiting still. Yeah. No, I think that's talk to other people, check it out. And I often said to students, if they don't know what they're going to do or what they're supposed to do, 1 year, like go to a YWAM, go to a Cape and Ray, do like one of these 1 year discipleship schools, because it's not going to come back and go, oh man, I got closer to Jesus that year. What a wasted year.
Yeah.
I don't know anyone who has regretted it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I always push students, like when I was a youth pastor, like pursue that. Like if you're not sure, it's not going to hurt. Work on the side. And some, it's also that reality of you might have a heart for math and stuff like that, or you might have a mind for those things. Then pursue that. It's not any less, like I said.
Yeah.
Like living out your vocation.
You're still going to have opportunities to do ministry in your career, you know?
Yep. Yeah, you may be a life group leader.
Yep.
You may be like, you are being Jesus to the people that you're working with, right? Your coworkers.
Jesus was
barista.
a carpenter before he started his full-time ministry, right? Like,
Yep. So no, I think that's the important thing is, it's something to pursue, but I don't think it's like at the top of like the Christian, like we had this mentality in a sense back in the day, more so of like, oh, if God really loves you, you're going to be a pastor or a missionary. That's where it's at. And like, oh, I'm just a small group leader.
Yeah. You're not as blessed as they
important.
are.
It's like, no, like God's
Major
using
impact.
you wherever. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's adjusting our thinking, going, no, God's called me to love Jesus. He's called me to live that out in whatever way, wherever, with the people in my life. And the way I do it, maybe not as important as the other two, whereas we had typically reversed it, going, oh, your vocation and what you do is the most important thing. If you're pointing people to Jesus, that's a win.
Yeah.
That's
Well, if we were all just working at a church as pastors or support staff, who would witness to people?
That's true.
yeah.
How are you going to meet people if there's no one out there living in the world and telling people about Jesus?
Is that part of why you have set up your part-time office in a Starbucks?
Sure. Yes. No, multiple reasons. As an extrovert, I hate just sitting in an office all on my own where it's quiet. So I work better in public when there's just white noise and I can see people. And so I write my sermons still each week at a Starbucks. And that's just where I find my thinking is better. I like people watching and eavesdropping. And so I know a lot about a lot of people in this city that they don't know I know. That's the real reason.
If there's people not sitting near you anymore
no.
after this, you'll know why.
It's like a bubble around me. Like, what happened? I don't know.
Staff come up to you. We're going to have to ask you to leave.
We've had reports.
Yeah.
No, I just like being out,
Yeah.
seeing things, right? Like just being where people are, and then even thinking like, what would these people need to hear?
That's smart.
Like some of these people are going through tough relationships. They're fighting. Like, so what's the reality of what we're trying to teach? The application, not just cool. Here, this sounds real good, but like the people out there living life, trying to discover Jesus, it has no relevance to them, right? Yeah. So it just kind of crosses your path with people who are really trying to figure it out or not even there yet.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So Starbucks is my second home.
I like that.
You're at the new one though now.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't been in
nice and
there.
close.
It's my favorite Starbucks possibly ever.
Really?
It's so hard to get in and out of there, isn't it?
Yes.
Oh.
But
you get to
I can walk there.
Yeah.
And when you come in, they've got like a little wall and the like coffee bar is on one side and the seating's on the other.
Okay.
So when you're sitting there, it's not like there's people standing right at your table
Waiting for their drinks.
coffee and just kind of hovering.
Right,
And
kind
you
of
look
where
up.
you sit at the other spot.
Yeah. Where you look up and there's the barista staring back at you making other drinks. Like it's just always this weird eye contact that you make.
Yeah.
So I like the fact that you get a little bit of privacy over there.
At me again.
Don't stir up this drink.
again. What is he doing here?
Do they know?
There's some that have known over time. I mean, it takes time to build relationships.
It does, yeah.
Previous like baristas, like on their breaks, there'd be times they'd come over and we'd chat, and they were going through struggles at home or struggles with job decisions, and I'd just listen and give some advice. And
That's cool.
You're like torn. You're like, you make the coffee the best here, so I think you should leave, but
here's
you shouldn't leave because I like the way you make the drinks.
But the reality is I get a tea. I don't drink coffee.
So
It's
no one
disgusting.
can really make that wrong, hey?
So I'm like a frequenter of Starbucks.
disgusting.
And like I normally get the iced tea, and you get free refills. So like I'll go and I'll typically have 3 drinks over the course of the afternoon because they're.
Do you just go back up to the counter with your
You
cup?
just go
You
back
do,
up and you're
yeah.
like, can I get a free refill?
You've never done that?
No.
Oh, life change.
If you
Here go.
finish, depending on what it is you're getting, it's tea and coffee, right?
Any drink you get, you can get a free refill. So you
Even
can
like
get
a
Americano,
latte? Really?
latte.
I didn't
You
know
get a
that.
free refill of either a regular coffee or an iced coffee, a regular tea or an iced tea. So your refill isn't another Americano or
could be
latte
a
or whatever it is,
different thing.
but it's always
Oh, wow.
like any drink you get, as long as you stay in, you can get a refill of. And
now
you
I
have
think
to
you have
use
to have
that.
your own
You
cup.
have to use the card, and now you have to have your own like reusable cup, or you can use their reusable like mugs.
Wait, so if I go in, I get a latte. I can get a refill of. It won't be of the latte,
Of an
but it could
iced
be
coffee.
Iced coffee.
Yeah,
Oh,
in a
It's true.
reusable.
If you have a
container.
Starbucks like membership.
right.
Yeah, you have to use your registered card.
Good to know.
Yeah,
Wow.
game changer. Now I'm going to see
forgot
you
about that.
all the
Pool
time.
house. Get on board.
Yeah, no pressure. Yeah.
We're going to move on to probably heavier topics now.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
before we do, because I am a youth pastor and this is my brain, I'm just going to pull us back into history one more time.
Oh no.
Do you have memories of youth group that were like, it was like dangerous or like something crazy that happened or some weird event we had? Like when we talked about the Redneck Olympics, I genuinely still remember, I think it was like Johnny had a truck and we had hubcaps and he was like wildly driving through the parking lot while we were trying to throw the
I was
hubcaps
saying
out of it.
To Alicia, I feel like I remember my mom and I coming to pick up Danielle from that event. And I feel like I remember Derek Enns being in one of the back of the trucks.
Makes sense. Yeah.
and there was like watermelons everywhere. And
Yeah,
it was
like we
wild.
did-
I was like, I want to be a part of this. This looks amazing.
Yeah, like because there was spam carving.
Yeah,
there
yeah.
was watermelon eating, like
Yeah.
competitions where you're on teams. You had to finish half a watermelon fastest, but you didn't get utensils because
Right.
we were
Yeah.
rednecks.
No, you had to use it.
We're going to be doing this event again. Probably
Couple
around the
weeks from
time
now.
that this
Oh, yeah, that's
episode
true.
comes out.
You need
so-
to do it. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, were you ever on one of Clarence's hay rides? Because those were wildly dangerous.
I remember falling off the back of a hayride wagon.
Yeah.
And like skinning my arm and like,
Yeah,
get
he didn't
back here.
stop.
And you're like,
yeah, you had to just
hobbling
keep
catch
running.
up.
Yeah. Yeah, you didn't stop for
Oh,
anyone.
it's good. Yeah. Good.
Yeah. Just keep going. Thinning the herd. Yeah. I remember when I worked at camp the one summer, we had one of those big ball type things. And we'd always like, people would run and like crash into each other.
Oh, like that giant soccer ball thing?
Yeah.
We still have one of those. We hide it.
Yeah,
I got
'cause-
clocked in the head
Dangerous.
with it one time and fell over in the gym.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. There was a kid running
Thanks,
and
Mark.
he hit another kid and the kid flew backwards and they got like major whiplash
Yeah,
and
oh, yeah.
got brought into the hospital and we're like, and I was in charge of all the equipment. So I felt real bad because it's like, oops. So yeah.
I remember
like,
one summer, Erin Heidinger got like someone clotheslined her, and she like they took her away on a backboard from the camp.
We had to have one of those all the way out in
got
Elkwater. We decided to do a New Year's event out there once, but then somebody, I think it might have been Hayden, had access to Hidden Valley, and like it was night, and we just took tubes and sleds out there to the ski hill, but it had been recently like I don't know what you call that, where it's like
Graded,
smoothed down.
groomed,
Yeah.
and yeah.
So like we just had no grip at all. And one of these girls who was like new, I don't think she was a Christian. She just came, was invited, actually hit a tree.
Oh,
And so,
no.
yeah. And like was like blacking out. And so
Oh
we actually
my
had to call an
gosh.
ambulance from Medicine Hat to come pick her up in Elkwater.
That's awkward.
It
Yeah.
was not great. I don't know.
Yeah. I never had any of those crazy. I mean, I remember, I think it was during the same time that we did the science crazy blow things
Okay.
up. We did Where's Waldo in the youth service one time.
Oh.
So we had a guy dress up like Waldo, and he went into the sanctuary and was
Steve
just
was
sitting
talking
in there.
about this. I think they like searched around with the
yeah.
camera.
Yeah, so they
for
had the
him.
camera panning over the whole audience, and you'd have to like, there he is.
Yeah.
So did that, and then back then, even then the tech, they had him go to like Walmart
Okay.
and somehow like found him there, but he went to take off on somebody's like scooter. And he's like, yeah. And he just revved it. And like the tire like lifted and launched and he crashed and the scooter went falling. And the guy whose scooter it wasn't happy because like, wait, that's my scooter.
Steve did tell us that story, didn't he?
I think he might have.
I think he did.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because the gugue wasn't supposed to be riding that scooter.
No, he was just
Yeah.
taking it kind of as like a cool, like, there goes Waldo. He's getting away. And we're like, uh-oh. Now
Oh,
what's going to happen? Because
no.
Waldo's injured and somebody's scooter could be a write-off.
I feel like pranks were such a big deal back then too. Like, I don't know, like any camp was like full of pranks, or like we came back from YC once and like somebody had their car paper mache'd.
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember
What?
that?
Oh, yeah. I remember
Would
that.
that ruin the paint job?
It did, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
It did.
Well, because I know who did it.
Because then there was retaliation, wasn't there?
There was always like, there's a little bit of battle going on. And, But the problem was it froze.
Okay, that's okay.
So they just paper mache'd the whole car. And then it was like -5 that night when we got back.
So there
and so
was
we
no
couldn't
getting
just take
into it.
off so the next day they kind of chipped it off and went to like the car wash
And then
over there and
came off.
But I could imagine the car wash people not being happy when somebody shows up with like
Newspaper.
plastered. Yeah. It was a very creative prank.
Someone jelloed Jake and Amanda's car on a Tuesday night. And so like Amanda was my youth leader at the time. So we like just went with her over here to the car wash and we were just,
Like they just covered it in Jell-O?
yeah. And it was starting to stain. Like we had to like, I don't know, small group girls, I guess, AKA slaves. We were there like trying to like scrub the car real
You're
good.
my small group. Well, can you vacuum the back too? Little do you know. Then you see the
Yeah.
packets in the back seat and you're like, wait, you did this to yourself, so I'd clean your car. Typical.
I have a photo here. I'm just trying to pull up. Yeah, there was I think at one point they filled Stacy. I don't know if she was married to Mike yet, but her truck's bed, they tried to fill with as much no-name Superstore Jell-O as possible.
Wow. Yeah, I remember, like, because at camp, I spoke at a number of camps, and they wanted to prank, and they were kind of pranking, but they didn't prank me. And until the final last day, I came and my car was filled with balloons, which was like a moderate, like,
That's pretty
"Ha,
nice,
ha,
all things considered.
pop
Yeah.
the balloons,
Yeah,
thanks,
uh-huh.
guys.
Didn't ruin anything.
Yeah, so I handled that, but yeah, I never got into the pranks.
There was one time I helped with this one, I think. I think it was Chris and Justin, and I think Denver was involved too.
Way to throw them all under the bus.
Yeah.
No, they
Yeah.
I think they owned it.
No one had a clue until now.
And censor their names. They I don't know if I should reveal who. I won't say how, but they got their hands on like hundreds and hundreds of phone books. And so they ripped out every page of every phone book and crumpled it up. And about one phone book would make about a 1 foot by 1 foot cube of space. So they took garbage bags full of crumpled up phone book papers and filled my sister's car to about, like, if you're sitting in the vehicle, to about here.
And that would take
Up to eye
forever to
level.
get out.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, that's,
Where do you put that in the meantime? That was probably before we all had recycling bins in our back alleys, eh?
Yeah, I don't know.
You're like, that's not really my problem.
Fire pit. Burned up.
even that's like if you think a whole car, that's a lot of fire pit.
It would be a lot.
Yeah. No, I got them a spare key because my sister was still living at home.
Sabotage.
And but then I was worried that having, like, I think it was like still kind of colder out, and I was worried that having the heat on would if she had command start. So if she could, like, did command start and the heat was on, that it would start a fire in the car. So like frantically calling Chris late at night. I'm like, just make sure when you do it, the heat's off. He's like, what? I'm like, just so it doesn't start a fire. He's like, yeah, sure, whatever.
Just doesn't smell like newsprint, warm. Yeah.
I don't know if I can find it. Anyways, it was a photo. It was I came out from youth one night and there was just like a giant snowball on the roof of, or not the roof, the like windshield hood area of my vehicle. It was like, I was fairly good size, like 4 feet in diameter. So
it's just like
cool.
pranks are okay, but it just, the
You do have
line
to be
doesn't
careful.
get drawn. And then somebody's like, I don't have a car, but this is a great idea. And now you're like, my windshield's broken. Thank you.
Yeah.
The
No, they
pranking
didn't.
era sort of finished. I think it was the year that my sister was out at camp. It was just a retreat, but it was a winter retreat. And the boys thought it would be funny to like snow barricade the girls in their cabin. So they didn't know, but like they literally just brought like, squares or whatever of snow and built it up so the girls physically could not open the door. And no one realized until the morning someone really had to use the bathroom and they could not get out. And there was a lot of screaming and crying and it took some good work to dig them out. So I think that was it. They were like, no more.
There's still pranks. Yeah. There was a year when
But they kind of laid the law down after that more.
yeah, maybe that director did, like but since then there's been pranks.
Yeah, I remember when Tony and Stacy were there.
Yeah.
All of a sudden at the top of the hill was like
all your
of
sleeping
your
gear,
sleeping gear. Yeah.
every year.
Yeah.
My mom's vehicle was surrounded by 4 hay bales one year when she was out there helping in the kitchen.
That
Turns
was
out-
you that did that though.
No.
So like,
I was not involved. There are pictures of me leaving the scene, but I
could
was
be the-
involved.
okay, just a little bit more to the left. Left. Yeah, perfect.
Oh, no.
So I remember going up for breakfast in the dining hall and looking out in the field. I'm like, is that my mom's car? No.
Who has done this to mother?
Danielle went to say good night to her in the staff cabin and snuck her car keys as she was saying good night to her.
Throw your sister under the bus.
My
now.
mom
Wow,
knew.
I'm seeing a pattern here.
Yeah.
Don't trust him. It's going to come back to haunt you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, that's tough.
So Andreas, you're a real pastor.
You were called to ministry.
I was thinking about
Lowercase
this.
c.
Yes.
You're a pastor of the adults.
I'm a youth pastor in lead pastor clothes. That's kind of how I see it. So I was a youth pastor for 8 years. And I struggled every year kind of graduating out students going, good luck in the rest of the church, right? Because I loved what youth was about. Like we had outreach, we had like life on life. Like we had places where we could wrestle, bring our friends, all of that.
Like
and then
scripturally or physically wrestle?
that was probably both.
Okay.
Right? Like, so you had like the safe space, and then all of a sudden it's like, now go and just be a part of
Yep.
church. And there's maybe some young adult stuff going on, but it's like you're an 18-year-old and now you get to hang out with 30-year-olds, right? Like it's just like, yeah.
It's very different.
So I struggled with that. And so when I stepped away from my position, my hope was to help youth more still. And so now I view my position as a lead pastor as still helping support youth by hopefully creating an environment that when they graduate or pushing their parents to here's what like your kids actually need an environment at home.
Yeah.
We actually talked about this in one of our recent sermons at church, that when kids are young, they do as you say. When they're old, they do as you did. Right? And so now my challenge as a lead pastor is how am I encouraging the adults to model, to be Jesus, not like, great, we go to church and then dad leaves the Bible in the car all week.
Right.
Right? Or, yeah, we're at church and parents are raising their hands and worshiping, and then they get home and they're like, did you see what she said? Oh, I can't believe they didn't talk, right? Like, and the kids are going, that's two different, like, realities of like, they're saying Jesus, but then they're not living Jesus. So I think my challenge now is like, how am I helping the parents? How am I helping the church as a whole be an environment where youth can go, oh, that's what it's about. That's what I continue to get to grow towards and love Jesus and live it out. So I'm still a youth pastor in a different way.
I
And I
like
still
that.
get to speak at youth retreats and all those things and love it.
Yeah.
So
That's super
yeah.
cool.
Yeah, you came to YXH. Was that this past November or the November before?
September?
September. Yeah.
Kickoff. Yep.
Yeah. We actually were trying to get you in a bit sooner because we want to talk a bit about what you talked about.
So controversial.
Well,
Yeah.
no one's walking around and
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Some of you were not behaving that well that evening.
I've never spoken in an environment where literally a whole row of people gets up and walks out at the exact
Yeah.
same time.
that
I'm
was
like,
different.
"Well, was it
Everyone
something I said?
urgently
You
needed
all have to go pee
water."
together, but you're guys.
Yeah.
That's not how we
That's not
roll.
something we do. No.
Yeah.
Super bizarre.
It was
Yeah.
weird.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like some of them missed out a little bit.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. What'd you talk about?
See, Levi walked out, so
Yeah, he's one of the
asking 'cause
guys
he
going to
doesn't
the
know.
bathroom with
Yeah.
his friends.
Come on, guys, let's go.
Yeah. Talked about so I had a dinghy, a
Yeah, I remember
boat.
the prop, yeah.
I had a boat up there and talked about the storms that come at us in life and how Jesus walks out to us in those storms, but he doesn't always stop the storms, but he's present with us. And I think far too often,
It's a modern version of the footprints in the sand.
yes,
Yeah.
close to that. Yeah. Everyone's like, what is that? Google it.
Yeah.
No, I think far too often in the church, we've got this belief that if I'm living the good Christian life or I've committed to Jesus, that hardship will disappear.
Right, yes.
That things are going to now be good and I'm going to get wealthy and have a great job and find a girlfriend or boyfriend and all of the things that I want, God will bless me with. But when you read the Bible, that's not the case. There was storms, there was people who were sick, right? And so that's kind of the general gist of where we went, of God meets us in the hardships and he's present with us in our hard times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. How do you explain that? Like, don't you think God would care for his people? You know, I should clarify. This isn't me saying this, but to give you a tough question here.
Yeah.
Don't you think God would care for his people more than people who don't believe in him? What do you say to that?
Genesis 1.
Yeah.
All people are created in the image of God.
Exactly.
That's my start.
Yeah.
So I start with God loves all people.
Yeah.
Everyone is created in the image of God. That doesn't make me more unique as somebody who has discovered Jesus. So all of our friends are created in the image of God uniquely. That's the starting point. And so I'd say because of that, then a Genesis 3 happens where things fall apart. Brokenness enters the picture. And that doesn't mean that followers of Jesus are able to avoid sin and brokenness within the world and hurt. We're all in that reality.
Yeah.
Jesus had to come to fix that brokenness. That's his whole reason for showing up, to restore our brokenness with our relationship with him, our identity within ourselves, our relationship with other people, and our relationship with the world around us, how we live out our faith in that. And so Jesus came to fix those things that were all broken. And so although we found Jesus, the world isn't fully mended yet.
Yeah.
There's still sin. And therefore we are also, because of that, in a world where we can be following Jesus and we're still, cancer still happens, right? Divorce still happens. Death still happens. Because sin is still a reality.
Yeah.
So Jesus has beat it, but we're still living in the in-between before he comes back, and it's fully beat it.
I want to ask you something that you said at the start that I think can be confusing, especially if you're new to your faith. What does it mean when you say to be created in the image of God? I know that's...
Great question.
Yeah. You've got a lot of time.
Thanks for
I just
asking, Levi.
said that because we're supposed to say those things. Each of us is unique
Yeah.
and intentional. Ephesians 2:10 says, "For we are God's masterpiece," in the New Living Translation, created in God's image to do the work which he had prepared long in advance for us to do. So we're masterpieces. We're Mona Lisas. We're not just thrown together random parts and, oops, didn't expect you to be born.
Yeah.
Each person is a masterpiece. So God looks down at us and goes, wow, beautiful, like created for a purpose,
Yeah.
created like because the world needed you right now.
Yeah.
Right. Heard a quote recently that when God looks down and sees a need, he sends a baby. Right. And so we are the solution to many of the world's problems.
Yeah.
Some people may grow up to find a cure to cancer, right? Some people are going to be a mechanic who figures out a better way of driving cars that are better, cleaner, whatever, right? Someone's going to care for animals. Like the solutions to the world's problems are often within us.
I think too, we have the benefit when we're going through struggles, because like I could go through the exact same problem my neighbor's going through, but if my neighbor doesn't know the Lord and I do, then like it is different, right? I don't know, like we have hope,
Right.
We have a relationship with God, and so I can pray. I can talk to God about what's going on. I can have, I don't know, God can speak to me and give me encouragement and strength for that day. And these are all things that like my neighbor wouldn't get to experience. So I think like when we think about like, why do we still go through struggles, you know, or like, why doesn't God just make our path easier? I'm like, he does in a way make it easier, because we do have hope and a relationship and things that everybody else doesn't have, but we're not going to be fully rescued out of pain, right?
Right. Yeah. We understand the bigger picture.
Yeah.
We understand that God is still bigger than our problems. And so even amidst the problems, there is hope. We can have peace going, yeah, financially it's really tough, but like, man, God, you still love me. Oh, wow, God, you've provided in this way. And so we can make it through. That doesn't make the hard times any less hard.
Right. Yes.
But it allows us to navigate them going
Differently.
No, I can make it. I'm not alone in this. I've got God with me. He cares about me. He's there. There's a community of believers potentially also there for support.
Whatever the end game of this situation is, God is going to be at the end of it.
Right. Yeah, he's there. Whether that's I've
And
got
getting there is
cancer
gonna
and
be very
death
tough,
to,
but-
yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's a big picture. It's a big reality of hope that God's with us. And yeah, I think that's important to remember is God cares about each of us. He's present with us. He loves us.
Yeah.
We get to live that out even when life sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to throw another tough question at you.
Oh my goodness.
Bring it. Yeah.
It's okay.
But
he's a grown-up pastor.
He's
He'll
a
be
grown-up
fine.
pastor.
Yeah.
Well, he's just dressed like a
yeah,
grown-up
right,
pastor.
yeah.
He's still a youth pastor.
He'll be fine.
I just pretend.
Pretend. Do you got your senior pastor clothes on?
Yeah.
Hey, I'm a reverend now.
Well, you're more senior pastor than I am.
No, it's not true.
Yeah.
Just ordained.
Welcome to that world. Reverend Alicia. Why are we not been calling her that the whole time?
I'm sorry.
Rev.
And this is my co-host, Reverend Alicia Dirksen.
There we go.
Oh no.
But if God can remove the suffering, he has the ability to. Why doesn't he?
I think
Alicia's like, wow, you're being so mean.
I think one answer is he desires to do so, but it's also through us.
Yeah.
Sometimes there's suffering in the world because believers aren't actually doing what they're supposed to be doing.
That's true.
And bringing hope into this world. And so when people are going through brokenness, we are not meant just to have our faith for ourselves and great, I've discovered it and now I keep it to myself. No, we're to be
Don't
a
gatekeep.
light to the world, right? We're to help shine light into darkness. And so why is it that God hasn't done anything? He has.
Yeah.
I was born.
Yeah.
Right? Like we were born. You were born for the sake of being light to the darkness.
Yeah.
Is that going to solve everything? No, there's still darkness. There's still wars. There's still
Sickness.
famine, sickness. But even there, that's connected to my own greed. That's connected to my own entitlements at times, right? Where I deserve my rights. Like, yeah, I should care for those people in China making my shirts, but whatever. I really like this brand.
Yeah.
Right? And so the solutions to a lot of the world's problems are there. It's just we don't actually want to solve it because I matter more and my needs matter more and what I want is more important than potentially the bigger brokenness or the kingdom needs that we could be a part of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Living in the flesh. Yeah.
Yep.
How do you overcome that?
I'm like, what else is on the list?
Yeah.
I'm like, I've got
How do you
one.
overcome it? I think it's a daily.
How do you die to your flesh, and
Yep.
what are those practical things you can do to die to your flesh and live in the Spirit?
I don't think you can on your own.
Right. Not just more willpower. Hey.
Yeah. It's not like today
No.
I'm not going to lust.
No.
Today I am not going to, envy that person who
if
has
only.
a better life.
If only it was that easy.
Yeah. I found in my own life, the greatest struggles I've had, victory came when I stopped trying and gave up trying, which seems to go against like, oh no, you need
Yeah.
to.
Doesn't make sense.
But like when I was like, no, God, you've got to do this.
Yeah.
I'm done. And he's like, oh, good. I'm glad you finally asked.
Yeah.
Right. And that still means like we need to make wise decisions. We need to have accountability from people. We need to, do the things that are going to help us live out our faith well. But ultimately, it's not something I can do. That's why the Holy Spirit's here. Right. Like so that we can live in tune with God, and he prompts and he leads. And so it's a daily surrendering, not me trying to do, but just going, okay, what today is it that you may want to be working on within my life? Is there like, how can I be sensitive? Give me eyes to see, ears to hear, heart to obey God. Every day, just kind of like, what does that look like? And the more and more you do that, the more it just becomes like second nature reality.
It's true.
But he's not going to force it upon you.
No.
You have to still have that free will, that free agency
To choose wrong.
to choose wrong.
Right. Yeah. And in choosing that, we miss out. Right. Like, I think it's because we often view Christianity as more like, oh, now it's the sheltered, boring life.
Yeah.
Whereas my favorite verse, John 10:10, I've come that you may have life and have it more abundantly, have it to the fullest. It's like bottomless refills of goodness.
Yeah.
Right. Like where every day I get to like walk with Jesus and have peace. And wow, my friends, they seem to be having a good life, but there's an emptiness.
Yeah.
There's a constant striving, and I don't have to strive.
Yeah. Scraping and searching for something more and still never finding anything.
Yeah, I've got the grades, I've got the girlfriend, I've got the sports, I've got whatever it is, all the successes, and yet why is it that you still have to keep
Then
more
you
and
fall
more and
into
more?
addiction. I'm drinking, I'm doing drugs, I'm trying to get higher, I'm trying to get more money, I'm trying to get, it's just endless.
Yeah, it's a cycle versus doing life with Jesus. Oh, I have hope, I have peace, I have a sense of joy.
If you look at someone who has that quote unquote boring life, can you see how content they are?
Yeah. Yeah, contentment, that's a big one. Gratitude.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
I shouldn't say like fully content, but
yes.
there will always be a discontentment too. But
Yep. And contentment's a tough one. I always struggled with contentment because I always connected contentment with complacency.
yeah,
And if I become content, then I'm just going to settle.
yeah,
But we are to be content because it's a sense of gratitude. Just going, no,
content
I
with what
see
the
all
Lord
I
has
have.
provided for
Right.
you.
That doesn't mean we cease to strive for living out more and loving more and all. But it's in the now. I have all that I need. I don't need more.
But at the same time, there's still more to do. There's still a mission ahead of you that
Yep.
God has given you,
Yep.
the plans that He has for you, right?
Yep.
But you can't just like, oh, I'll just spend a few hours on this and get it all done.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
I've achieved evangelism. It is complete.
I am content.
Done for
Off the
life.
list.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it depends on what you're being content in. Like, I'm like your accomplishments is different than content in where you are at in life.
Yeah.
Right. I can be content in where I'm at in life going, okay, God, even amidst the hardships or with all these blessings, I see you and I'm so grateful. But yes, I still see that there's more that I could be doing, living it out, and I'm not going to settle. But even in the continuing to work for the kingdom and loving people, I can still be a person of contentment going, I'm blessed by all I have and all that God's doing and His presence in my life. And yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. He's
Is
running
that
out
the
of
end
tough
of your
questions.
list of?
I can't think of any other challenging questions. Explain the book of Job to us now.
Oh no! What's your favorite color?
Job. That's a fun one.
Okay, I'm curious what you think. Do you think Job was a real person?
Ooh.
Or is it just a story I don't know how to put that, a story to make a point? So there's a lot of support for both, from what I understand. Okay. You think about that. What about you? What do you think?
I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's a bunch of things that I'm like, does this theologically matter? Does this make a difference to my faith? It does not.
Right.
It's sort of like, I don't know, the younger theory, or like, I'm like, I don't know. There's just things that I'm like, I'm content to not know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It doesn't.
I don't care. Because like when it comes to theology, I'm not like a theologian in the sense of like, oh, I know all the answers and I got all this and I figured, like, I'm more like in the applied practical theology of like, how does it affect how I live?
Yeah.
How does it affect how I live out my life, loving others, loving God? And so you look at a story like Job and there is application for what does that mean for how I live?
Absolutely.
What does it mean for, oh, God is bigger than, oh, I don't know all the answers. And so that's more where I camp. That's where a lot of like my teaching lies on Sundays, youth camps, whatever it is, YXH, where it's like, how do we experience God and live that out?
Yeah.
How is it real? Not great. I've got a lot of head knowledge.
Yeah.
We've got a lot of people who know all the answers, but they're jerks.
Yeah.
Or they have zero joy.
Yeah.
Or they don't love people well. And I'm like, well, why would I want that? Because from what I see from like the early church, and like it changed their life.
Yeah.
And it wasn't about knowledge. It was about like, I get to walk with God each day and them transformed. And so that's more where I land.
People around them are like, you're different. What is going on with you?
Yeah. Yeah, we want that.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you Christians are being burned at the stake. I'm still in because there's something different about you guys, right? Like
that is the interesting thing, right? I don't know. We get like mad sometimes. We have a paper cut, but we like, I don't know. I think we forget even the early Christians, what they went through and right. You know, it is, if you read the Bible, I think your view of suffering and what it looks like to be a Christian will change.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Like early on, like Jesus dies, disciples, wow, church is growing. Paul shows up. Let's go kill these people. Let's go arrest them. Like they're anti-Jew, and like the church has to hide, and yet it's still growing. Right. And so my theology lands more in the so what camp.
Yeah.
Right. Like when I speak on a Sunday, whatever it is, there has to be a like, why does this matter?
Yeah.
Right.
What's the relevance for every day? Which often that's why there's object lessons.
Yeah.
Connected. That's why I have rubber boats. I've I've preached on the top of a ladder, right? Like this Sunday we're using flashlights.
Oh, that's fun.
And taking it apart, and all of the pieces are necessary for the flashlight to work, right? Like, so it's just like visual helping people, because people go, oh yeah, you're the guy who spoke in that boat. I kind of remember storms. Okay. Right. Like it helps people remember, but apply. And
Last night we talked about stress, and I had all the youth leaders slowly stand up with cans of pop and shake them around the students.
Oh, I just thought you're like, we're talking about stress. Here's all the youth leaders.
I stood up there slowly saying words I thought they'd find stressful.
Deadline. Exam.
Yeah.
Oncoming diarrhea.
Yeah. So when it comes to Job, I'm more like, what is this saying about how to live out my faith versus I need to know every answer? And I know that that's difficult, because there's some people that are very much analytical and they need to dive deep and they need
Job
to understand.
didn't get an answer.
Right. Right. So he was still left kind of hanging like, can you tell me that? No. Okay. All right, God.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we don't know everything. And sometimes like that's faith.
That's hard to
That's trust.
accept.
Yeah. Yeah. We'd like to know everything.
Yeah.
But we can't.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Any final thoughts on the topic? And then we usually prepare yourself.
Oh.
We usually ask for an embarrassing story.
Yeah.
I've never been embarrassed.
Oh,
That's good.
Cool.
You're like Tyler.
Well, thanks everyone for watching.
Oh no.
Yeah, that was his answer, right?
Yeah,
He
he's
just,
never
like,
had an
couldn't
embarrassing
think of
moment. He
anything
just,
to-
yeah. Hmm.
Yeah.
He's had one since, but we shouldn't say it.
Well, I'll have him back.
Have him back just for that. All right, we're
It's
going
going to
to
be a
skip
short 10-minute episode today.
skip to the final question. Yeah. Yeah.
Do you have any embarrassing moments?
Oh,
The
They
more
just like
recent,
these
the
stories.
better.
Yeah. There's a lot of poop stories that have been
Yeah,
happening on this podcast. It does not have to be that.
No.
I mean, I don't know if I have too many like, you're always nervous when you're up front and you're like,
yeah.
this is my fly undone. Like, what are people thinking? Right? Like you get all self-conscious.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But there's never really anything where I'm like, oh, I can't believe that happened.
In your whole life.
I don't
No
know.
funny story where you're like,
He can't
oh,
speak
shoot,
on suffering.
nobody
can't.
can
I
ever
have no
know
clue.
that this happened. To
No, like I
You
would
never sent
like,
a weird text. You've
the wrong person. There we go.
but it wasn't my.
Someone took your phone and did it.
I received a text from somebody, one of the interns. We were having a church picnic, and they meant to text me, "Hey, can you save my butt? Can you get this and this and this for whatever?" But like autocorrect kicked in and it changed save to rate. So can you rate my butt? So I just responded by saying, awkward 6. I don't know.
You gave a number.
I think like I was just like, what? And then they're like, what? I'm like, just kidding. Haha. And then I went up to that person's. Yeah, I went up to that person's mom. I'm like, I don't know why they're asking me to do this. Like, this is inappropriate. They clued in right away. So I knew the person
obviously
well
knew this
enough
person
to know
enough
that I was
to-
just like,
okay. Wow, that is wild.
so it
I
wasn't.
could never commit to the bit.
Yeah. So
No.
it wasn't embarrassing for me, but I mean, it's awkward when somebody's
Right,
sending
yeah.
you text and you're like, we're supposed to work together. This is wrong. You know, this is crossing the line.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Sorry that happened to you.
Yeah. So that was, I can't think of anything embarrassing. I mean, I've got kids, like they say and do the whatever, and you're just like, no, you can't be embarrassed because you got a screaming kid all the time, and people are looking. It's like,
Have your children said something to embarrass you? I guess when I was a kid, we had, the worship pastor, my dad used to make comments about how like sometimes he was like known for putting his foot in his mouth. And so like, I didn't know what that meant. So as a kid, and at one point he was walking by and I was like, Dad, there's the guy who puts his foot in his mouth. Like,
nice. No,
my dad was very embarrassed.
my daughter.
That's horrible.
Yeah. I'm nervous of that. Like,
Yeah.
oh, what do we say around the home?
They pick it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which, So
You
on
can
a
tell
serious
because like
note,
there's times where Noah will say things I'm like, oh, that's something my mom would say. He's just repeating. He doesn't know what it means.
so my wife often, she'll bring up like, hey, maybe we shouldn't say these things in front of the kids. Not that it's bad, but we're like processing something at the church and wrestling through something.
Yeah.
And I just read a quote this last week about do not cause children to stumble. And they said how many kids have potentially left the church because of what they've heard their parents talking about, their anger, their bitterness that they hold on to. How many people are now maybe not. And we pass things on and cause our kids to stumble by just our everyday conversation where they're maybe not seeing faith lived out well, lack of forgiveness. And I'm like, oh, yeah, that's a gut punch of just like, I need to guard what I say in front of my kids better because, they're listening.
That's
they
true.
take
We
on
can sort
those
of shrug
things.
stuff off or process it differently.
Yeah. And we're, as mature adults, we're like, oh, yeah, we're just trying to figure it. But for them, they're hearing something and going, oh, wow, all people in the church are just not good at helping and they don't care, right? Like, and you just go, oh,
I mean to my
that would be
dad.
an issue. Yeah.
Leave it to Andreas to take our embarrassing story segment.
Turn
and
it into
turn
a
it
teachable
teaching
moment. Yeah. It's like
Why
it's who
I'm a
you are
lead
at your core.
pastor who's still a youth person.
I love it.
Andreas, thank you so much for joining us
Yeah,
today
thank
and
you.
sharing. And do you want to tell us where you pastor? In case anyone's wondering.
Yes.
Yay.
I pastor at Southview Community Church. We are
in Southview.
In Southview. Yeah. I was brought in, our church was 16 people at the time, 3.5 years ago, to basically going to go, how do we restart this church? We believe that this church still has a purpose within Medicine Hat amidst 30, 40 other churches.
Yeah.
And so we've really zoned in on what does it mean to be a church for the neighborhood. So we're quite actively involved at the school across the street from our church. We volunteer there a couple days a week as pastors. We do family movie nights. We do pancake breakfast one Sunday a month. That's our whole service. We do drop-in play groups. Like we just really want to be about some of the needs in our neighborhood and help people encounter Jesus and point them towards Jesus. So that's our
I like that. Missional where you're at.
Yeah.
Yeah. The struggle was we drive by how many churches to get to the church that we're going to, which is great. Like there's love the Big C Church of Medicine Hat, love all the things going on here. And there's different roles we all play. And yet for us, I'm like, there's so many people within our neighborhood that don't go to any church.
Yeah.
So let's make this the church that they can connect with and have a sense of like, those guys, we know them.
Yeah.
We've been to some of those things.
Yeah.
And we've seen that online where people like on Facebook are like, hey, looking for a new church. And somebody's like, well, I don't really go to church and I'm not religious, but like I've gone to these guys and like they seem really caring.
That's
right?
cool. I like that.
And so that's like huge just to
An
go,
open door.
we're
being a
accomplishing
neighbor.
something. Yeah. So, yeah.
Cool.
Awesome.
That's where I'm at.
Yeah.
Just down the street.
So thanks so much for joining us. And if you guys want to check out Southview, do so. All right.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
See you. Thanks.